All right. Hereby call the meeting to order. Let us stand for our invocation and for our pledge of allegiance. To our great Creator, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the precious sunshine and the opportunity to serve once again. We ask that you lead us with your wisdom and your knowledge, because you can see all, whereas we can only see in part. You're welcome into this meeting this day to have your way, that we may be a greater city and a better servant and neighbor to all those around us. Amen. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will have the approval of our minutes from our February 8th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a section. Is there any question, any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Let it reflect, our minutes have passed. At this time, is there no objections? We will have appearance before council, Ms. Jenny Blueware from the Municipal Association of South Carolina, to speak to the council on behalf of the National Main Street. Hello, Jenny, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
The floor is yours. Welcome to our meeting today.
All right, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay. We are ready.
Okay. On behalf of Main Street, South Carolina, I am delighted to congratulate downtown Florence and the city of Florence on being our 5th nationally and state accredited Main Street community. We have 2 signs that we'd like to share to celebrate that recognition. These will be placed and installed as y'all see fit with whatever implements that you need. But this is a forever recognition that does require annual assessment, annual review, and annual work. So we want to say thank you for being a part of this process and for being our 5th.
And thank you for the presentation.
We're good.
Do we have anyone there on site who desire to say anything at this time?
We're done. Photo.
Yes.
What was that?
Okay, I guess that's not.
I guess not. Well, to downtown Florence as well as to the city, congratulations on such hard work. And now that you've set such a precedent, there's a lot to do to keep that going. Do any of the council have any statements they desire to make? Floor recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. It is an expression, I think, of the ongoing commitment that city has had, the staff has had, council has had to continue the process. And I am excited about the future for downtown. I'm excited about the future for Florence, but this is just a part of the evolution that we've seen that has been built on for many, many years of work that has been done over the years. So it's an expression, I think, of recognition of how far we've come. But I'm going to challenge council that we've got a lot more to go and a lot more work to do. And so as we go forward, coming out of the pandemic, we're not out of it yet, but as we come forward, coming out of it, I think we want to recommit ourselves to taking this as a challenge upon ourselves to elevate what we're doing and elevate not only downtown, but all of Florence and likewise the whole region at the same time. So thank you for that.
Any other council member?
I think you just about summed it up.
And once again, to our downtown staff, especially to Hannah, to all who participated in this application process. I know it was not a simple process, so thank you for the effort that was placed into that. And also to realize that to get to this award did not happen overnight. It took time to build, to create the things you saw downtown. It took commitment, not only from the city and the Downtown Development Corporation, but also to the business and business owners who took that leap of faith and committed to growing our downtown area, but also to the community who supports downtown. Because regardless to what, if you don't have a downtown that your daily citizens can support, you don't have that growth. And I'm honored to say in the past, I remember attending a Main Street event back in New Orleans, and I was very fascinated to hear from the different cities who were participating in Main Street. So it's an honor for the city of Florence now to be a part of that recognition. Once again, thank you to any and everyone who has anything to do, not only with our downtown, but also with our communities, because it takes all of us working together to make this city one great city. Thank you again. If there's no other discussion, we are prepared to move into our ordinance. And our first ordinance up for a second reading is Bill number 2021-01, an ordinance to adopt a model business license ordinance in accordance with the Business License Bill H4431, passed by the South Carolina Legislature in September of 2020. Do we have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Let it reflect the bill has passed. We have bill number 2021-03 for second reading, an ordinance to declare surplus and authorize the conveyance of real estate known as the Florence County Tax Map Parcel 90076-04-016 to Silverleaf Investment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been properly motioned and second. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect the bill has passed. Bill number 2021-04 for second reading. An ordinance to amend section 2-6.1.1 and 6-19.3.2 of the Unified Development Ordinance regarding setback in the CG district.
So moved.
The motion, we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that the bill has passed. Now,
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, there's a technical issue. May I address that, please?
sure.
I don't know who's in charge, but I got a text message just a second ago saying that people are not able to log in and see anything online. The message came through asking if we were live, if we've already started the meeting, that they're having a hard time connecting and seeing what we're doing. Excuse me.
No, you're fine. Thank you for bringing it to the attention.
On YouTube, they check YouTube.
I'm assuming that, but looks like it should be okay.
For just a moment, y'all, we're having questionable technical difficulty on behalf of some of our audience. But please be sure to go to YouTube and look for it on YouTube.
Mary said she's viewing it now.
It says it's streaming.
Yeah.
Okay, and it is being screened now live on YouTube. So if you're having any issues on any other access that you're looking at, please go to YouTube and you will be able to see it there on YouTube, active now, presently streaming.
Well, it says it's on now. So now, for whatever reason, it came back
That's
on.
on.
It's shown on YouTube.
Yeah,
Okay,
it
we
just-
are,
it just-
we
for whatever
are,
reason now it's on.
we are good on YouTube, so we will proceed on with the meeting. Thank you for allowing us to know, but please go to YouTube to follow. At this time, we're going to go into introduction of our ordinance, and we have our first reading and final reading for bill number 2021-05, an emergency ordinance to extend the emergency measures put in place previously by the emergency ordinance numbers 2020-12, 2020-13, and 2020-20 as a consolidated into the emergency ordinance number 2020-28 to include the requirement established that individuals wear masks covering in establishment open to the public and food service establishment and others matters related to the response to COVID-19 emergency. And
So moved.
it is the proper motion and second that on the ordinance. Are you ready for any discussion? And just so you know, this is an ordinance which keep in place our emergency ordinance for our mask wearing. Are you ready for the?
Ma'am,
Yeah.
Mhm.
effort. So the mask wearing, I think we know that is working, and we know that it's making a difference. And while South Carolina has started the process of vaccinations like everywhere else, and Florence is certainly doing well in terms of vaccines, the medical community has made it clear that this is not a time for us to back off. This is not a time for us to be complacent. If anybody wants to see statistically where we are at, go to the DHEC website. And if you go to the DHEC website, there's a vaccination dashboard, and it gives really good information on where we are currently in terms of population and the percentages of vaccines. As of Friday, the first group, the 1A group that was eligible, we had only had confirmed second shots of 27% of that group. So to reach what's called herd immunity, the information is that we need to hit 70%, well, of the total population. So if we're only at 27% of the class 1A, the group 1A, and I know the mayor has been involved and participated in some of these calls that we've been in, and Randy, our city manager, has been involved in it, and Amanda was there this past Friday. So these weekly calls that we're doing with the medical community are critical to sharing this information and keeping us abreast of where we are. And the medical community, whether it's McLeod, MUSC, Hope Health, DHEC, Florence County Emergency Services, is all joining together in a chorus and a choir singing that we do not need to be backing off at this point in time. And I think that's been loud and clear to all of us who've been participating for this last year. So it is, while there is an opening up that is taking place, and we certainly are grateful for that and glad to see things moving forward, there's a concern as we have spring break coming up. What's going to happen with spring break? You see Bike Week is getting ready to take place down in Daytona, 300,000 people going down to gather at Bike Week in Daytona. So we are not out of the woods as a nation or as a state or as a community. So I certainly endorse and encourage us to continue on with the mask mandate for the time being. And until we hear from the science that it's safe for us to, as a whole, as a society, as a group, as a city, to do that, I think it is in our collective best interest that we continue on with this. So it is in, and again, I would encourage anybody who wonders where we're at statistically to go to the DHEC website. And is there any way, Mr. City Manager, Randy, is there any way that address, that web address can be posted on our City of Florence website?
We have a page dedicated to COVID, so it'll be easy enough to put on.
But I'll make sure.
Yeah, if we can check and make sure that that DHEC dashboard, vaccine dashboard website is there. So all anybody has to do if they want to easily find it is go to the City of Florence website, look up and find the DHEC dashboard, and you can see, which changes every day. Those numbers change every day. So everybody will be able to keep abreast of it. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor. My concern would be the businesses that they are going to want to enforce and follow what the city is saying, but then there's a play with the state and the city. That's going to be a question. So how does that work? The city we are saying we are keeping our mask ordinance. and the state is saying we can open up. The police are going to have a field day if we're going to end up with this business that says you cannot come in without a mask, and they're saying you're violating my rights. So how, I just want it clarified how we would handle that.
At this time, I'm going to recognize our city attorney.
Yeah, I just want
There really hasn't been a change. Throughout the whole COVID pandemic, the state of South Carolina has never passed a required mandated mask statute or order for the whole state. They've certainly encouraged masks, and if you read what they're doing right now, they're still encouraging masks. They had some targeted required mask things, but really from the beginning of the pandemic, it's been the cities throughout the state that have taken the lead and said, in our city, we are requiring the continued use of masks. So I don't think there's been any change from a legal standpoint. Certainly within our city, the ordinances will continue to be a valid ordinance. And, you know, as we all know, the whole purpose of this ordinance is to really encourage our citizens to continue to wear those masks in those public areas so that, as was stated earlier, we can hopefully continue to make progress against this pandemic. So I don't think there's been any real change from a legal standpoint. We are completely within our authority to do this. Many cities are continuing to do exactly what we're doing. They are continuing their ordinances also.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. I think.
Oh, thank you for that. And I just want to ask the media, I would definitely really appreciate it if you make it perfectly clear to the residents of the city of Florence that our mask mandate is still in existence. Don't take it off. As Mayor Pro Tem has stated, our attorney has stated, we still have a long way to go. We need this mask mandate. We need this mask mandate in place to remain in place for as long as it takes. And basically, I'm definitely voting for it. I don't care who else votes against it, but I'm voting for it.
And if there's not any other discussion, I do just want to remind you, as a medical professional myself, that every time, especially when I enter the hospital, you will need to wear a mask. I will encourage the public to understand, even though we're starting to have more mass vaccinations being done, we also have a virus, and viruses are smart. When you start to attack them, they start to learn what you're doing, and they start to do what we call mutate. In other words, they say, okay, they're doing this. How can we protect ourselves so we can continue to grow? So that is why you're starting to see different forms of COVID-19 out there because of the mutation. And I'll give full credit to Dr. Fauci, who stated that if we would get our vaccines, which would decrease the cases of COVID-19, that would decrease the cases where they can mutate. So understand, this is a healthcare crisis. This is not a political science debate.
Mm-hmm.
This is a medical crisis.
Mm-hmm.
We have a smart virus. We have a science, which we call medicine, which is designed to do just this, advise us on what is the best way to take this virus and keep it from continuing to kill us. But not only kill us, if you can live through COVID-19, and you can have long-term effects from that. I don't care what your ages are. You have children now who have lifetime disabilities from this disease. So when it comes to the city of Florence, we are asking you to protect yourselves, your family, loved one, and the general public, simply by wearing a mask. And as a healthcare provider, I promise you, you're not gonna find any of us running into a hospital area without a mask on. And even though I have had both of my vaccine, I'm still gonna wear my mask. And understand that even though you have your vaccine, there's still a 5% chance that you still, depending on which one of the vaccine you had, you still can get COVID-19. But the purpose of the vaccine is to simply keep that virus from having you placed on a ventilator. It increases the chances that you will survive this disease. So that is why your mask is still so important. I tell people continuously, we are still in a living experiment. In other words, our scientists are studying this while we're living through it. So please be patient, wear your mask, continue to wash your hand, and continue to distance yourself, even if you've had your vaccines. We're still in a crisis. So I would like to thank you and thank council for that discussion. Is there any other discussion? If not, are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that the bill has passed. Now, the next ordinance we have will also be an ordinance that when it will simply take the bill we just passed so that it will be in place. But if if the governor does something that totally lifts everything, we'll be in a position so that we can be able to lift it. So next we have bill number 2021-06 for first reading. An ordinance to replace the existing emergency ordinance, bill number 2021-05, and to extend emergency measures put in place previously by the emergency ordinance number 2020-28, which consolidate emergency ordinance numbers 2020-12, 2020-13, and 2020-20 in response to the COVID-19 emergency. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been properly motioned and second. Are there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we're ready for the question. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same likeness. Let it reflect that the bill has passed. Now we have for our first reading, bill number 2021-07, an ordinance to annex and to zone parcels located at 1541 Paloma Parkway, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel 90113-01-067. Do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and we can now hear from Mr. Jerry Dudley.
Thank you, Mayor,
you.
members of council. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. And this property is located on Palomar Parkway. It is currently in the county, and they're wanting to annex, and they plan to zone NC1, Neighborhood Conservation District, which is in agreement with the adjacent zoning district as well. And the future land use of this parcel, let's see, we got some extraneous things going on here. There we go. The existing or the future land use for this parcel is neighborhood conservation. There's currently water and sewer available at this site, and Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on February 9th and recommend 6-0 to recommend the zoning of this parcel to NC 6.1. And this concludes staff's report.
Thank you. We've had a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that the bill has passed. Next, for a first reading, we have bill number 2021-08, an ordinance to rezone 3 parcels located at 900 Oakland Avenue and 607 Maxwell Street, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel 90114-13-001, 90114-13-002, and 90114-13-013. Do we have a motion so we can hear from Mr. Dudley? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and we will hear from Mr. Dudley, but we also have 2 callers online that once Mr. Dudley has presented, we will then hear from our callers.
see if I can change this to,
Yeah, because that's not Mr.
yeah, I'm
Duffy.
not sure how to do this. Here. Let's see. I apologize, I'm not quite sure how to change it back to the normal view. Let me back up 1 second here and see. I realize that's kind of tough to see here. There we go. Get that thing on. Well, I had it fixed. There we go. These properties are, and I apologize for that again. It seems like we're riddled with technical difficulties today.
That's
But,
all right. We'll get through it.
we're getting through them. These properties are located at the corner of Oakland Avenue and Maxwell Street. And they are located adjacent to Iola Jones Park, along in the North Florence neighborhood. They are the current, and I'll zoom in on it here. You can see the two buildings that are on two of the parcels here. One of them is an existing convenience store that's located there, and the other one is an abandoned, I believe, an old garage. And I've got some pictures later in the slide show of the two buildings. They are adjacent to residential uses in this case, as well as across the street, obviously, Iola Jones Park, and some multifamily located in the area as well. And the current zoning is NC 6.1, and NC 6.1 is characterized by single family detached development, has 6,000 square foot minimum lot areas and 60-foot minimum lot widths. And the future land use map indicated that it was neighborhood conservation. The old zoning for these parcels under the Unified Development Code was B2, which is a limited commercial district. However, in the conversion over to the Unified Development Code, based on some of the modeling that occurred out of lot sizes and future land uses, they did get converted to NC 6.1. So and this is the land use prior to the Unified Development Code that shows the parcels in this vicinity that were zoned B2, which is a convenience commercial district. The brick building here is the existing convenience store. It did shut down for a little while, but it did reopen again. They did acquire an updated business license. So they are considered, even though it is neighborhood or a neighborhood conservation district, they are considered an existing non-conforming use there as the convenience store. So they would be allowed to persist and continue that use in that location. You can see the adjacent residential use here with the White House with the kind of burgundy trim there as well. And where the sign is there is the vacant lot that's between the two, which is also included in this proposed rezoning. Here's some additional pictures of the existing site. The picture to the left here is the old building. I'm not sure if that used to be. It looks like an auto repair is what we understand it used to be. I don't know if anyone could shed additional light on that, but
It was a club.
Okay.
I didn't want to repair, I think,
Okay. So it had some various commercial uses in that location in the past. And just to give you a bit of history on this, the original proposal for rezoning came into our office. They wanted to zone it as a commercial general. And they were proposing to put a gas station there, a fueling station with a convenience store. And we looked at that pretty hard because that's a pretty intense use when you put a gas station at a site. And there were a number of limitations associated with that. You know, the size requirements for the lot. There was some of the conditional requirements for a gas station or fueling station. In addition to the buffering requirements that would have been required against an adjacent neighborhood, just severely limited that site for that, as well as the intensity of the use for that. So we talked to the property owner and leading up to the planning commission, and he agreed that the commercial commercial reuse zoning designation he would be agreeable to. This would allow the use of the convenience store to continue and the potential redevelopment of the convenience store at this site, but no gas station associated with it. There would still be some buffering requirements, which I'll go over here in a second, but the buffering requirements aren't quite as intense, but they're still there, and I'll cover those in just a second. Currently under the NC1 or NC 6.1 designation, it does allow obviously single family homes as well as some commercial uses of the home, such as a bed and breakfast, childcare, home occupations, and short-term rentals as part of a conditional use or a special exception use. And with regard to compared here, the neighborhood conservation as compared to the commercial reuse, the institutional recreation and amusement, and a C means it's conditionally permitted, the dash means it's not permitted, and the P would mean it's permitted by right. So as you can see, the CR would allow colleges and universities, which probably the site's not big enough to lend itself to that, I would think. The private club is conditionally permitted in the NC district, but would be permitted by right in the CR district. Police and fire would be permitted in both, and outdoor recreation would be permitted in both, like a park or things of that nature. But as you can see, things like indoor commercial amusement, which would be like a pool hall, or outdoor commercial amusement like amphitheaters and performing facilities would not be allowed in either of those zoning designations. Moving on to commercial uses within the two districts compared. The biggest changes from the NC to the commercial would be the conditional uses of an animal grooming facility would be allowed there, as well as commercial retail, things like business services, personal services, and shopping centers. And that's where the convenience store would fall into this under a general retail establishment. Also, professional or medical office would be conditionally allowed. A restaurant, as long as it did not have a drive-in or a drive-through, would be allowed in this location. But no alcohol consumption, either on-site or off-site, would be allowed. And however, a convenience store would be allowed to continue to sell beer and wine as long as it was not predominantly what they did at the store. The alcohol on-site consumption is defined as the predominant function of that business. So they do sell beer and wine at the store, and they could continue to do that under the proposed zoning here. As far as the commercial reuse standards, they would have to follow the setbacks as laid out here, the 25-foot setbacks on the front, 5 on the sides, 20 on the rear, and they'd have to dedicate 35% of the site to open space or landscaping. And the height of the building could only be 27 feet tall. And I did put, because they are proposing a convenience store here, I did put the conditional use for such a use within this district. And it is that it would not exceed 10,000 square feet of gross floor area. That is the one condition that would be for a commercial retail use there. And As I said before, they would be required to put in a type B buffer between the adjacent zoning district, which would be a 10-foot buffer. And per 100 feet, they'd have to have 2 canopy trees, 2 understory trees, 2 evergreen trees, and 20 shrubs. And there was a public hearing held on February 9th, and Planning Commission did vote 4-2 in favor of the rezoning request. And this does conclude staff's report.
Before we proceed into any discussion from the council, I would like for us to go and have our callers so we can hear from them if there's no objections. So at this time, we do have Mr. Patel on the line, correct, our applicant? We can hear from Mr. Patel at this time.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to today's meeting. We're pleased to have you here.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome to the matter. Welcome to Mr. Patel, can you turn down your audio, please?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. You may proceed. You may proceed, Mr. Patel.
Okay. Hey, yeah, we just, our intent for this space as the zoning commission outlined is to, we're grandfathered into the zone that we have so we could continue to operate the business as is. But our intent is to simply, provide a facelift to the building. We want to, add some landscaping, tear down the building and just build a new building in the existing space and, to really just provide a facelift to that area, to our building in particular. And we would continue to operate, in the same means and provide the same services that the business does currently. So we're not intending to operate as a bar or a liquor store or anything like that. We're intending to continue to use it as a convenience store, that would sell groceries, perishable items, alcohol, beverages, and such.
Off premises.
Yeah, off premises, so no consumption on the premise.
Do any of the council have any questions for Mr. Patel? At this time, the council, the mayor will recognize Council Member McCall.
Hey, how's it going? I have a quick question that pertains to the property. Again, you already indicated that you do not attend a strip club or any type of club on the premises, right?
No.
A liquor store on the premises that you're not entitled pertaining to the zoning. What about a private club? Do you have any intent of putting a private club on the property?
No,
No, sir.
this is off premises, sell the beer and wine.
So it's my understanding that you only intend to pretty much renovate the present building as it is, because as of now, you can only operate in the building in its current state. And this, I think we all can agree, it's kind of in a dilapidated state, right?
Correctly, and as I intend to use it, right? If you were to walk in there, the roof is super low. It's inefficiently, the HVAC and stuff is just inefficient right now. So I want to build a new building so everything is run efficiently, and it simply provides a better space.
Yeah, okay. And the main thing is, I think this council is going to get on this. You don't want a private club there, right? You don't intend to have a private club there in the future as well.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you. No question.
The mayor recognizes Councilwoman Pat Gibson.
Okay, I understand that you want to upgrade your convenience store.
Yes,
There's still another piece of property on the other side. What is your intent? Your definite intent, not a maybe intent, for that piece of property? A bingo parlor, a check cashing, a barber shop? What are you gonna do with that piece of property?
yeah.
Yeah. Our intent there, and it would, in its current state, it would stay there. I don't know when I would have the time to renovate it fully, but our intent there would be a laundromat, a coin laundry and that's it. There would be no club or anything like that.
No bingo, nothing.
No bingo, nothing like that.
Just state lottery coming in.
So
Because,
let's say you decide to put a laundromat. Would you put,
sorry,
let's say you decide to do a laundromat. Would
Not
you
in the-
put that in a contract in writing to the city of Florence, if that's your intent?
are we willing to write that in the contract? Is that what you're saying?
The city of Florence, if that's your intent and your only intent.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just making sure, talking to my dad in our language, make sure he agrees. એવું લખવું છે કે આપણે ત્યાં ભવિષ્યમાં ખાલી લોન્ડ્રામેન્ટ કરીએ, બીજું કશું શું કરવું છે?
ના બીજું કશું નહીં.
આપણે કોન્ટ્રાક્ટમાં લખવું છે?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yes, he's saying we're willing to write
I
it
don't want to do nothing.
in a contract with the city of Florence that the use for the secondary space would only be a laundromat, when and if something was done to that building.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Patel?
Yeah, no.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Jabali.
No,
You don't have one? Okay. Mr. Patel, thank you so much for zooming in today and giving us your input. Be sure that we have heard your input and we will take everything that you stated into consideration. So if you don't have any other, we have one more question from Councilmember McCall.
And I do apologize for that on that note. Mr. Patel, okay, so if council was to defer or decline your rezoning application, would you still operate the business as it is, or will you, what's your alternative? If council was to say, we don't want you, we want to keep it commercial, residential, commercial.
Neighborhood conservation.
Neighborhood conservation, sorry. What is your intent if we were to not rezone the property? What is your intent?
Right, our intent is to continue to operate the business, right? I just recently purchased the building from its previous owner, so I'm invested in the business. So I intend to, continue to run it if I'm not allowed to renovate it, but obviously I would prefer to, renovate the space.
Thank you, sir. I have a question.
You're welcome.
Okay, and Mr. Bailey, so if they are continuing to be in that location there, could they still serve beer and wine?
They could. They are permitted as a convenience store or retail store, and as long as it was not the primary, percentage, if it doesn't go over 50% of what they do on that site, then yes, they could continue to do that.
So regardless of council's decision today or in the future, they still can serve beer and wine because it's done like that. They were grandfathered in beforehand, right?
Yes, that is
I
correct.
do want to interject, and I heard almost serve, they can still sell beer and wine.
Yeah, sorry,
Sell
they
it.
can, yes, they can sell, not serve.
Not serve,
Yes, for off-site consumption,
right.
yes,
So in other words, they can still sell the products they're selling.
that's correct.
And if the council elect not to give this zoning request, because there are business that was grandfathered in, he can tear that building down and rebuild it and continue that same service that he was providing, or
If he tears down the building completely, it converts back to the underlying zoning. So he would not be able to reconstruct that building.
okay, so if
He could do limited interior renovations, but he couldn't.
So what he can do, if he wants to bring the building up to a more aesthetic, he can go inside, he can literally update the inside of that building as long as he keep that physical structure in place.
That's
So he
correct.
can update, and then after he's update, renovate on the inside, he can still sell the products he's selling and operate under that use. And then for the outside, these other properties, those will still be in a neighborhood conservation, correct?
That's correct.
And so he would have options on those particular properties, but only what's defined already by the code, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Which is predominantly single-family residential.
Any other questions?
Go ahead. Yeah.
The chair recognizes Council Member McCall.
This is very important. So, okay, so if we do not change, I think I can get up and make sure I have my steps lined up. So if the council decides not to change the zone and he tears down the structure, the only thing he can build at that point is single family homes, right?
That's correct.
So that means he can only do inside work, right? But if council was to change the zoning to commercial reuse, then he's able to make the the outside, so he can tear the building down and essentially put up another community.
That's correct.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Pat Gibson Moore.
Mr. Dudley, if by chance we vote to change the rezoning, how does that affect the other businesses in the area that across the street? For instance, there was a restaurant and another business across the street. How would that affect their zone?
It would not. They would stay zoned like they are currently. This rezoning only affects the 3 parcels in question. So the other adjacent lots would stay zoned what they are.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Councilmember Jabez.
Jerry, as I look at the map, the zoning for that entire block is neighborhood conservation, correct?
That's correct.
It's across the street, across Oakland Avenue, that you have the commercial reuse zoning.
That's correct.
So this would be an introduction of commercial reuse zoning into that block at the corner of Maxwell and Oakland Avenue.
It would, yes.
The other properties around these 3 lots are all single-family homes, correct?
That's correct.
So what we would be doing is formally zoning those 3 lots differently than the other lots that are around the property.
That's correct.
And of course, in proximity, it's directly across this parcel. These 3 parcels are directly across the street from Iowa Jones Park.
That is correct.
I think, what's not being said, but what is on everybody's mind is you got a park and you've got alcohol directly across the street from a park. And so nobody wants to encourage our children to go drink alcohol and to go do things, when family, the moms and the dads send them to the park. So the concern, I think, that every council member shares is how do we put those limitations? While I do appreciate hearing about that they'd be willing to put limitations into any agreement, I would ask our city attorney, Mr. Peterson, if there's some restrictions that can be put into a deed that would prevent a future use. For instance, it said that the intent today is not to have a private club, for instance. But as I understand it, in a private club, let's say the building is built as a new building. A new building comes up, and then for whatever reason, 5 years, 10 years from now, it's decided, you know what, we want to get out of the convenience store business, and now we want to sell the business. We're relocating. We're moving to another place. And so now we want to sell the property. Well, it's already zoned as to allow for it to become a private club, as I understand. Is that right, Mr. Dudley?
That is correct. Yes.
So if it were to be zoned commercial reuse, while these current owners have, and I have no reason to doubt their sincerity, would be able to say, oh yes, we are not going to have a private club. But a private club, you'd be able to serve alcohol, correct?
In our zoning ordinance, and let me read that definition to you, because it does exclude what you're concerned about. A private club is defined as, it means an organization or association of persons for some common purpose, such as a fraternal, social, educational, or recreational purpose, but not including clubs organized primarily for profit or to render a service which is customarily carried on as a business. And it goes on to include examples of private clubs, include but are not limited to 4-H clubs, veterans organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Elks Lodges, YMCA, private community clubhouses, golf clubhouses, and fraternities and sororities that do not include residential facilities. But then it says the phrase private club does not include organizations with a principal purpose of serving alcoholic beverages to its members or others.
You say a principal purpose, but this does not exclude it from happening.
It would not totally exclude it, much as an elk lodge or a moose lodge has alcohol at some of their events.
So the commercial reuse, which is across Oakland Avenue, the 903 B and C on Oakland Avenue had a club operating there for a long period of time where alcohol was being served. And this is directly across the street, and it was within the commercial reuse zoning. So it comes back to the change in the zoning would not preclude it from becoming a private club, and as a byproduct, having alcohol served as opposed to the sale versus the serving of it. And my question to our city attorney is, while the current owners have agreed to limit their, by contract somehow, their property from being used, whether it's going from a laundromat to something else or whatever, or from a convenience store to something else, how can we build that into any document that can assure us not only for while they own the property, but after the sale of the property, that continues on, the agreement that would be entered into would continue on and would run with the property going forward?
That's always a hard question when it comes to zoning issues. As you can remember, some of you who've been on council a while, we've had other instances where someone wanted to rezone property and the use that they planned to make on it, which needed the rezoning, there wasn't a single person that had any objection to that. But the question was, can we limit the next owner or the next owner or the next owner once we open up that zoning? It's a hard question, and we could certainly do some research to see if there's some way that other cities have been able to come up with a mechanism to do that. But I think for the purposes right now, we always advise council that once you approve a rezoning, you need to look at that and see, okay, what's allowed in that rezoning? Because even if the current owner, what they plan to do with it is completely agreeable with everybody, it does raise an issue for down the road, what might be able to go there. And basically what we've always advised is when you look at a rezoning, you look at all of those uses and make sure that you would be comfortable with any of those uses going in. But we would certainly be glad. I know there's been some discussion about not making a decision on this today. We'll certainly be delighted to do some research and see if there's some way that we could come up with a mechanism that allowed us some flexibility to where we could approve what they are talking about, approve the now within the zoning use as a convenience store or laundromat or something of that nature, but somehow come up with some mechanism to limit other uses. We could certainly take a look at
in light of that response, and thank you for that response, and in light of what Mr. Patel has said, that they'd be willing to enter into some contractual arrangement. In light of that, I'd move that we defer.
Right now, we're in discussion, and we do have another person who's going to speak. So before we proceed to discuss deferral, we're still in discussion. Are there any more questions for Mr. Patel or for our city attorney right now?
I do. So again, I entirely endorse the idea of see whether or not we can control the future use of the property. But the narrative I'm hearing, which I'm kind of perplexed by, because to be honest with you, this neighborhood, the entire neighborhood, I lived here 25 years out of the 27 years I was born. All right. And the store, whether or not we change the zoning or not, is more than likely going to always be there. And we're arguing the notion that we shouldn't change the zoning, which I agree for the future use of it. But, we talk about investments on the other side of the track. And here we got the first potential investment on the other side of the track, and we're potentially going to stifle that investment. So I'm a little perplexed by it. I get the future reuse, and I endorse the position and see can we get that changed to a certain extent. But I remember growing up and going to that store, and that's the same exact store where my grandmother would send me on Sunday mornings to get her stockings. That's the same exact store that when I played basketball, still play basketball at that park, I don't go get beer and wine. I go get Gatorade, water. So that store is going to be there, right? And we're talking about investing on the other side of the tracks. If we have a potential investor coming in and looking to do a facelift to improve the property, right? Because many people who live in that neighborhood are going to drive by that store daily, right? So I'm for allowing them to uplift it. But again, I do endorse the position that we control, if we can control the future use of the property, because I don't want it to be turned into a private club or anything of that nature. So thank you.
I certainly understand what you're saying, and what I'm saying doesn't mean that council shouldn't seriously consider approving this. I get it, that you've got a store there, that it would be great to have that store updated and upfitted and changed to make it a much better location for the whole neighborhood. And like I said, we'll be more than happy to look into that to see if there's some way that we can accomplish both goals. And I certainly stand ready to do that.
But thank you, Mr. Peters, and Mr. Patel, thank you for being before us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this time, we do have another caller on the line, Mr. Tim Waters. And in conclusion for what we just discussed, just realize that whether the council votes for or against, the present owners can do the update. They can redo the inside, and they actually can revamp the outside, just like downtown. We have historical buildings downtown that we brought back to life again without knocking them all the way down. So those options are still there. So we wouldn't preclude a business from operating. So at this time, we do want to hear from Mr. Tim Waters. Mr. Waters, thank you for coming before us today, and we're glad to hear from you. Please state your concerns or either your promotion.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I like to say that I want to set the record straight. I'm not here going against the store. I am here going against the zoning change, because based on the zoning change that's there, that lot is zone neighborhood conservation. And basically what we're trying to do is inside of a C, and the city is recommending that it's changed to CR, which is a commercial reuse. However, if you look inside of the articles that for the codes, there's justification for zoning and districts. Inside of a CR, you can have a private club. Now, I don't know what the intentions of the builder is. They may be intended to put a store there, which is fine. But what you need to realize is once you change that zone and you're allowed to become CR, you can put a private club. Now, you might say, well, okay, let's just make an exception that one time. Let's pull it out where we can't put a club at that location. Well, what it does, it opens up Pandora's box. It's kind of like we just built this brand new community center. And we're really starting to take back our city cleaning it up. We do not want to already start zoning things that could become detrimental to our community. Every African-American park, Northwest, Levi Park, Outer Jones Park, are inundated with either an alcohol store, ABC store, or they're inundated with some type of zoning that allow for things that aren't bringing to the community. You know, and I'm not worried about people saying, well, you're against this store. I went and took a survey of people that lived in that neighborhood. And believe you me, the services that they offer at that store, there's another store a block away that's doing the exact same thing. And I just want to iterate, we're not against the store, we're against the zoning change, because I guarantee you there are members on city council that if, I don't know their addresses, but I guarantee you if this was 2 blocks from where you live, where you actually reside, you would not want this. You would not want this. Our community is taking strides to make it better. And we're not stopping a business enterprise because there's a convenience store right a block away that sells the exact same products. And I just want people to know that we're not against the store, we're against the zoning change, because once you change the zoning, once you change that zoning, you open up Pandora's box for other zonings to just come in the neighborhood and just take over our neighborhood. And that's not what we want. We want to turn that into, we've waited almost 30 years for that park to be viable. Right now, that community center was a covert testing hub. I mean, it really gave people a chance to really go in there and do some things. So now here we are, we're gonna put something back in our community that may not be that same way. And we do not want to create a Tiger Mart. Because if you're familiar with the Tiger Mart store that's on Irby Street, that store is I don't know what's the word. It's like, that's an OK Corral. People getting hit by cars, people getting robbed, people getting shot. That's exactly what's going to happen across the street from that park if we change that zone. Thank you very much.
At this time, are there any questions?
Yes, I have a follow-up.
So the chair recognizes Councilman Paul.
I'm sorry, I would quickly. I had some Red Bull before I got here, so this is to, I'm gonna let Tim stay on, but Mr. Dudley, could you go to attachment C? It has the zoning map.
Yeah, you want me to pull it up on the screen?
Can you pull it up for me?
Sure.
I have a question regarding it. So, all right, so this conversation has been going on for a while. So of course, a lot of people have been calling and want to, know what's, how do you feel about this particular situation? Because they don't want to have commercial reuse inside of the neighborhood. I totally get that, right? But my question is right here. So you see what it says CR right across the street, you pass Oakland Avenue. Right across the street, you have a CR there, commercial reuse. You see it? It's a big pink box. Pink box, right? You see it? Is there I know I might be asking a question that's not possible, but do you know when that was, because it was not zone commercial reuse. It had to been changed. Is that entire block commercial reuse? Do you know when that block was changed commercial reuse? Because a private club can go there now. There's no store there now, but a private club could go there now, right? Am I correct?
Correct. And a private club can go even in residential districts.
So even in neighborhood conservation, a private club can still go there. So regardless if we change commercial reuse to this property or not, a private club can still go at that person.
That's correct. It is a conditional use.
Conditional. Okay.
The conditions, and I turned to them because I figured this would come up. There's 3 conditions. One is that and 2 of them would apply to any, whether it's conditional or not, but one is that it'll be operated in accordance with applicable laws and state permits will be acquired. Number 2 is that the use will be operated in accordance with all local city codes. And number 3, which would be the most applicable and the most limiting, is that primary access to the site is from a collector or arterial street, which Oakland Avenue would be in this case. But not necessarily Maxwell. We'd have to take a closer look at that just to make sure. But Oakland Avenue, I believe, would be an arterial or a collector street.
Okay. All right. And in the red, it's already commercial general. And that is, so they have council already approved commercial general to be on this property. Those are, in the red there, those are homes right there, homes. And council has already approved that to be commercial general?
That's right. This was the zoning that was applied as part of the Unified Development Code.
Okay, so
And I'd
we're,
have to look back and see what it was zoned.
I got you. So we're,
Previous to that, but
so we have a commercial general zoning in the middle of a neighborhood. But there's no store, no nothing there. Those are homes. And I think there's a church. But here we have an existing store that has been in there since I was a child, right? That is trying to uplift the property, right? So it, it makes the neighborhood looks better. But we're arguing over this portion when we already have a commercial. The argument should have been on the red portion, the commercial general. The argument should have been on the CR. There was no store there. But now we're saying the argument is on an existing store that has been there over 20 plus years. All right. So that's why I'm a little perplexed on it. Again, I do not want it to turn into a private club because it's across from the community center. But could a club go into red zone?
Yes.
A club can go into red zone.
Yes.
Not a club, a nightclub can go into commercial.
That's correct. An establishment where they would do on-site alcohol consumption. Yes. A bar.
So Brother Tim, I'm just saying, so we're arguing this. We have a commercial general across the street that can have.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Yes, you recognize that caller.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Vote whichever way you feel conscious is good, and we don't have a problem with that. It's just that what you got to realize, you got to zone when you're making these zoning changes and you're making these zoning adjustments. You always want to zone towards the community. You don't want to always zone towards the business, even though something historically has been in place. It could be historically wrong. And I got to go from the end point. I own property that's right on the corner that I've been trying to clean up for almost 5 years. And now once that property finally gets cleaned up, you're going to put something there that's going to be detrimental to the community. If you don't think that is detrimental to the community, I want you to go to Tiger Mart on a Friday night, maybe about 12 o'clock. Or better yet, ask the police chief how many deaths, how many robberies, how many things have happened around that convenience store. Then go pull the traffic report and look how many people got. That is a traffic nightmare already at that corner. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against that location because there is a store right a block away, 1 block away. And it's not that the people are going to be losing those services because those services are right there. And, I know people may say, well, Tim, you have an ulterior motive. No, I don't have an ulterior motive. My motive is that I want to be able to walk my child to that store without being inundated with what I know is going to happen right across the street from that park. I know it. And that's the only issue I have. Now, the neighborhood, I would like to change, if you really want to impress me, go and change all the zoning on that Oakland Avenue take it back from commercial to residential so we can build up our community with single family homes. Now what you've uncovered is what's uncovered in every African-American district. In every African-American district, they take the fringes and change it into commercial use. You don't see this over there on Madison Avenue. You don't see this on Gregg Avenue. You definitely don't see it over there in Wisteria. I'm telling you that right now. So it's not about the store. And don't get me wrong, I have shopped there before. I'm not gonna say I haven't. I have shopped there before. And probably will. I'm not gonna say I wouldn't. But my thing is this is a chance that I'm working on the next 30 to 40 years. Once you make this zoning change, you best believe that this is going to be a change that other people are going to see like, okay, we can change neighborhood. You set a precedence for changing neighborhood conservation. You rezone it. And once you do that, who's the next person to come up and say, well, I want to rezone mine. I want to rezone mine. I want to rezone mine. And that's the only thing. Like right now, the property that I own on Maxwell Street, if I wanted to build a duplex, you can't build a duplex unless I get changed from single family homes. I'm just pushing single family homes. I like to see a African-American museum next door or the city buy the property and make an extension. This is the first time in history that we'll be able to take an African-American park and put something there that's not detrimental to the community.
Thank you, Mr.
That's the only thing that I'm saying.
I believe Councilwoman Pat Gibson, the board is recognized.
Yes, I don't have a problem at all with upgrading the store. But I don't have any sentimental reasons, as Councilman McCall, is sentimentally, for him, he's been there since he was a child. And yeah, it needs to stay there, upgrade it. But I don't want to see the zoning change, because say for instance, okay, we change the zoning and about 6 months down the road, they get an offer for twice as much money as they paid for that store, and they sell the store. Then the new owners will be able to change it into whatever they want it to be. A private club, a pool hall, a bingo parlor. So we will be taking a chance on the zoning. Yeah, go ahead, fix your store up, rehab it. But we don't need to change the zoning.
Yes.
We don't need for anybody to keep walking into our neighborhoods and doing whatever they want to do. Yes, economic development, but do it for the benefit of the community, not for their benefit, the benefit only of the community. And that's why I don't have any sentimental value for that store, for that block. My sentimental value is for Isla Jones Park, because I know how long before I was on council, how hard I was working to have a community center right there. And Mr. Waters can contend to that probably 25 years ago, we tried to get a community center right there. So I'm not arguing about them rehabbing their store, but I don't want to see the zoning changed.
Thank you, Councilwoman. At this time, we've had a lot of questioning and answers. Is there anything else, Mr. Waters, that you want to add?
I would just like to say thank you. You guys are doing a tremendous job as moving Florence forward. I just add that I know from working with the city of Florence, sometimes there are some difficult things that need to be decided, and it may not go in the favor, it may not go in your favor, but I always like the zone. I always was taught zone towards the community, zone towards the community. If you get a chance to make a neighborhood become a neighborhood, make a neighborhood become a neighborhood. Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Waters? If not, thank you, Mr. Waters.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, at this time, I'd move to defer to allow staff the opportunity to research and explore the ability to put in place the necessary language that was agreed upon verbally by the current owners to prevent the future use if we were to go ahead and change the zoning. So as Mr. Peterson had indicated, he would look into. So that's my motion.
Now we'll let, before we have that motion and before we get a second, I want it to be more general because we had a lot of discussion today. And just what you're saying, everything, I will look for, see what's legally correct for this, but also what would also promote what's best for the community since it's this neighborhood conservation. And before we defer, I wanted to summarize the fact that with a neighborhood conservation, this business still can operate just as it's operating. Understand that. If we let them not to change, there still can be that convenience store they want. Let that be understood. There's not a necessity to change the zoning. They still can exist. And understand that under the changing of zoning, when you think about private club, understand with a private club, that means you can, as they say, BYOB, that means you can bring your own alcohol, drink as much as you want on site, leave out from that business and drive right across the street from a park. So I want the council to understand that too. That's what that means. You go into a private club, you can drink there. And the main third floor road where he was talking about Oakland Avenue, you have private clubs on Palmetto, but when they exit, they're coming on the Palmetto, they drive through a commercial zone. When you exit onto Oakland Avenue, you're driving through a residential zone. So I want the council to have that information. So Councilmember DeBailey has made a motion to defer, which will give the opportunity for our city attorney and staff to seek more information. Do we have a second?
I want to amend his motion, not only to refer, I want to refer, but more information on, not on what they want to do there, but more information in general. What can be done there if we change the zoning? What can be done there if they decide to sell a business in a few months? Not just what they're saying today, what they might want to do. Overall, what's good for the community.
Do we have a second on that amendment?
I believe that's within the framework of what I had already said, so I don't know that it needs to get amended, but that's basically what I was asking.
Well, you were saying on what they said they would do, the laundromat.
Can we have a
I'm saying
sec?
overall?
No,
Yes,
that's for
second.
the entire property, that's right.
Correct.
For the entire property.
Moment. So we have a motion to amend the first motion, and the council member is saying that what the councilwoman is saying is in his one. Can we have a second on that? So we'll be sure for the record that it is complete.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. It is a proper motion in second. I will not try to restate that, but we, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed?
Do we want another call?
Not for this, not for this. So let the record show that we will be deferring this item, allowing the city staff and attorney to seek out more information to give us knowledge on basis of the present rezoning and expect on future rezoning. Okay, all right. Phew. So that's been deferred, yeah. Let me find where we're at now. Okay, y'all, we are now ready for bill number 2021-09 for first reading. And it's an ordinance to rezone the parcels located at 607 Second Loop Road, identified as Florence County Tax Map Parcel 90079-03-008. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? It has been properly motioned and second, and we can now hear from Mr. Duffy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh. Nobody said my job was easy over here. Let me skip to the next one here. And this does, is another rezoning. It's a parcel along Second Loop Road. And it is on the corner of Second Loop Road and Fairlane Drive. It is currently zoned commercial reuse, and they are proposing a commercial general zone. And it's currently the site on the left here of Bella Dentistry. It's a new dental office that's been built there. And their primary purpose for wanting to rezone is they want a signage by the street that's more in line with the commercial general district. You know, a lot of the properties around them are zoned commercial general, and I think they want a sign, you know, they're directly adjacent across the street from Anderson Brothers Bank, and you know, they see this signage in place there, and I believe that they wanted something more in line with that. I'm not sure exactly what, I don't know if it's LED or what, but they did want a larger sign. I know that. And we gave them a few options. They chose to pursue the rezoning of the property. We did take it to Planning Commission, and planning staff's recommendation was to recommend the rezoning, but let it be contingent upon if they do anything to the site that approaches the commercial general standards, they would have to beef up their buffer in the back. So instead of having the 10-foot wide buffer in the back with the appropriate planting there, they would have to install, you know, the more elaborate, I think it would require a type C buffer yard, which is a 25-foot buffer with a heavier planting in the back. So if they were to upgrade their sign, essentially, they would also have to upgrade their buffer, because there is a residential, a single family residence to the rear of there. And Planning Commission did concur with our recommendation and voted 6-0 to recommend the parcels be rezoned from commercial reuse to commercial general. And this concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Discussion?
I'm just, yeah, I do want to say something. I just
So
want-
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
I'm just, this is a business district and I totally understand it. I'm just very perplexed that commercial general is being allowed off of Second Loop for a business district, but across the street from a park, on the other side of the tracks, there is a commercial general district or zoning that is in a residential area. So again, I just want to make that distinction. I'm for this here, but I just want to, I don't know when this happened or, you know, how did it happen? But there's a commercial general zoning in a highly residential area. So I just want to make that distinction. Like, I'm for this, but I just want to, for the record, want to be known that I am a little perplexed.
I do want to clarify now, this is a commercial zoning changing to another status in a commercial zoning. So this is already a commercial zoning that is simply being adjusted for signage. Already has the proper buffering in for a commercial site. So the two zoning are two different style of zoning. You're in a commercial area already with a commercial zoning already off of a major thoroughfare already. So the requirement for that is already in place. This commercial zoning change was simply change the signage out front and the buffering out back. It won't change that building or the use of the building. So that is in comparison to what we just discussed. So I want to make sure we have that clear. Chair recognizes Councilman DeRay.
Mr. Dudley, looking at the future land use map, property street, if you're on Second Loop, you're looking to the left, it has neighborhood conservation, a large parcel, and if I'm not mistaken, that's in front of Sheffield, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And is this parcels that we're talking about, are they the ones directly connected to that neighborhood conservation, or is there a lot in between that is still commercial use?
There would be one lot in between that would be still remain commercial reuse.
So this is the corner parcels that already have a commercial building on it that would be changed to from commercial reuse to general commercial, but the lot next to the neighborhood conservation would still remain commercial reuse.
That's correct. And the lot that you're saying that has the neighborhood conservation on it, it's been developed as a McLeod property. Yes, there's a, it was part of their planned development. And
that was where I was getting ready to go next.
Yeah, sorry.
So if you go down the street there, that larger lot has already been redeveloped within the context of neighborhood conservation without having to change the designation of the underlying zoning. It's been able to be used as the McLeod healthcare facility.
That's correct. It's zoned actually planned development. It was part of the Sheffield plan development, and as part of that plan development, when it was approved, that was approved for commercial or professional office use. Yeah.
Without having to change the underlying zone.
That is correct, or the underlying future land use. Yeah.
So what we're talking about then is along the front to, if we look, you got Anderson Brothers Bank on one side of, is that, what street is that? I'm sorry.
Fairlane?
Excuse me, Fairlane. Intersecting the Second Loop, you've got Anderson Brothers Bank. If you're on Second Loop looking to the right, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's general commercial?
That's correct.
And then across the street where you have the Bella Dentistry, that's a commercial reuse building, which is a dental office.
Correct.
And then further down is McLeod Healthcare.
That's correct.
So that is all commercial all along the front, just varying degrees of commercial.
That is correct.
Okay. And this change would just simply change it from commercial reuse to general commercial for purposes of the site.
That is correct.
There's a half lot, as I recall, next to where the Bella Dentistry is, that's undeveloped at this time.
Yeah.
Would changing it to general commercial affect the ability of what could go there on that half lot that is yet to have a building?
Not this request, because this request would leave that lot as commercial reuse. It's not this request does not include that smaller half lot. So
Well, that was where I was going. So that half lot would still remain, would not get changed to general commercial.
that's correct, yes.
And the lot, and the other lot next to it, which would be in between the McLeod lot and where the Bella is in this, that would not be changed either, correct? That would still remain commercial reuse.
That's right. On the, let me go back and share my screen again.
Thank you.
We'll. So only the lot that's highlighted in red here would be the one that is affected. The smaller lot between McLeod, which is labeled PD here, is the green, and this lot. So this lot would remain commercial reuse.
All right. Thank you very much.
And it's undeveloped. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, so at this point, if there's no more question, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record reflect that this bill has passed. We're now getting ready to go into our introduction of resolutions. And as you may note, that resolution number 2021-4, 0-4, will be discussing executive session. Resolution number 2021-5 will also be discussed in executive session. And resolution number 2021-06 will be discussing general in an executive session if there's no objections. So at this time, we'll proceed on to resolution number 2021-04, which is a resolution to support of Ron James Youth Tennis Program. At this time, so we can hear the reading of that resolution, can I have a motion, please? And a second? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Could I please get Councilwoman Barnes to read this resolution into record for us?
Resolution number 2021-07, a resolution in support of the Ron James Youth Tennis Program. Whereas Ron James was known as an accomplished tennis teacher and player and a highly respected member of the Florence tennis community. And whereas Ron James was a mainstay of adult and junior beginner tennis for many years, managing and conducting programs for both the Florence Tennis Association and the City Parks and Recreation Department. And whereas the Florence Tennis Association has collaborated with City Recreation and Athletic Sports, Tourism departments and local businesses in the development of an introductory tennis program for children at the city's community center. And whereas the Ron James Youth Tennis Program is an introductory after school and summer program for children who do not typically have access to tennis, with an emphasis on fun, fitness, and and sportsmanship. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Florence, the City of Florence supports the Ron James Youth Tennis Program in their endeavor to serve the Florence community by making the sport of tennis accessible to everyone. Resolved this 8th day of March, 2021.
Thank you, Councilwoman. You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we're ready for the question. All those in favor of the adoption of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record reflect that this resolution has passed, and thank you for that reading, Councilwoman. Thank you. So at this time, we are proceeding to our reports to council for our appointments to boards and commission. Do we have a motion? Second. Okay, the motion is second that received information.
Mayor, members of council, we have appointments to 2 boards and commission. We have the Flats Committee that's appointed by the mayor.
Okay. For my appointment to the Flats Committee Board, I would, if there's no objection, I would like to appoint Councilwoman Pat Kisson Moore.
We also have appointments to the Housing Authority, and that appointment belongs to Councilwoman Barnes.
For my appointment, I would like to appoint Linda Williams.
We have had the candidate, Ms. Linda Williams, announced. Are there any questions? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. Let it reflect that we have Ms. Linda Williams now appointed to our Housing Authority Board. And also congratulations to Councilwoman Gibson Moore for your appointment to the Flats Committee. Do we have anything else? All right, thank you. So at this time, we're getting ready to proceed into our executive session. You've heard the aforementioned resolutions that we will cover, but at this present time, we will enter into executive session to discuss a matter relating to a proposed economic development project located within the overlay district 30-4-70A5. Okay, let me read these into record and then we can take a 5-minute recess before we enter into executive session. Okay, I'll read them quickly. B will be the discussion of negotiation incident to propose construction arrangement 30-4-70A2. C is discussion of a matter relating to economic development incentive associated with the city neighborhood revitalization development project 30-4-70A5. D, discussion of a matter related to a proposed economic development project 30-4-70A5 and receipt of legal advice 30-4-70A2. And the resolution that's read out before. Do we have a motion? And second, there's a proper motion second that we will enter into our executive session. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. And at this time, we'll take a 5 to 10 minutes break before we enter. Yeah, I'm going. Hello to all. We're coming out of executive session at this time, in which the 4 items that we entered upon executive session, there was no votes and no actions taken. So at this time, we are going to cover our resolutions. Our first resolution will be resolution number 2021-04, a resolution to authorize a memorandum of understanding between the City of Florence and the Florence School District 1 faculty to expand the expansion of the farm to school program facilities. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
It's been properly motion and second. Any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that resolution number 2021-04 has passed. Our next resolution is resolution number 2021-05, a resolution to amend the conditional grant and development agreement with Swinney's Builders LLC Swinton Builders LLC to provide incentives for development of new housing within the Old Carver Station subdivision project as a part of the ongoing neighborhood redevelopment project. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been properly motion and second. Any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Next, we have resolution number 2021-06. A resolution to amend a conditional grant agreement dated July 22nd, 2011 between the City of Florence and Downtown Hospitality Group LLC. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been properly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that resolution number 2021-06 has passed. At this time, that has completed our agenda. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been proper motion and second. If there's no further discussion or question, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, consider ourselves adjourned.